Robert Lipscomb's The English Project. Prologue. The fathers won't give up their children, we find. A white male, very Oxbridge, rather donnishly states the case, somewhat apologetically, it seems. As a senior civil servant, he does not like to have to explain himself, his tone implies, to unelected, anonymous grandees who neither disburse his salaries nor hold government posts. And yet he knows he must. He is not alone in this. "Then you are to follow the standard procedure," comes the assured rejoinder, "and cut them off. This chap has a fine head of hair, is rather plump and well preserved. His age may be 40 or 75, and he is coldly, very well pleased." "We do cut them off," the civil servant replies. "We follow the standard procedure, as you say." "You cut the fathers off from their children?" "Yes, and the children from their fathers." In point of fact, in the last 20 years, we have caused nearly 1.5 million children to lose all contact with their fathers, and those are the figures for England alone. "You had better keep those figures to yourself." Only his lips move, only his eyes, and they are cold. Well, naturally, yes, the figures are highly sensitive. Top secret, of course. The civil servant's assistant, also privy to this audit, interjects in support of his boss. "The English Project," comes a snicker from a pigskin briefcase, an utterance, apparently, which nobody hears, but Mercurius hears. All this, although he has no ears, he hears and sees, although he has no eyes, bodies round a table. It is a circular table, 4 meters wide, with ornate surface and imperial girth. The surface of the table is artfully inlaid with Florentine mosaic. King Arthur and St. George are prominent, with dragons at fluttering lance point cowed. There are noble knights and Moorish potentates, portcullises and fleur-de-lis in onyx, garnet, amethyst and jasper, tourmaline, tiger's eyes and lapis. In its weight and girth, in its pietra dura, there is very great honour in the table, and elsewhere in the room there is none to be found. A dozen besuited bodies sit at the table, each body adorned with a precious waistcoat, old and venerable, with ivory buttons trimmed with gold, with silk embroideries exquisitely faded, heraldic designs, esoteric codes, and lovingly stitched by hand, so that each and every waistcoat is slightly, but not too subtly different, and so the more precious, the more primus inter pares. The mothers so often resist arrangements. They simply won't submit to court orders or the judge's directions. So then we get the fathers traipsing back to court repeatedly, with endless applications, pestering the Crown for leave to see their children. "So much the more income for our own, I would have thought, considering the costs of litigation." Most peculiar to relate, somebody's eye might suddenly droop as though that person has been coshed, or is undergoing a stroke. His lips will twitch, flex, wiggle perhaps, and out of the clay flesh a voice speaks up, a quite incalculably unfriendly voice, which moves the lips aptly to the word, but the words it speaks, by means of borrowed lips, are, how shall I put it, not physical, as such, not heard. And none of these bodies in their precious waistcoats takes the blindest bit of notice, not even when the self-same voices issue from their very mouths, attentively working their very own lips. Well, yes, point taken, but the fathers, you see, they become impoverished, to the point of needing benefits, and having reduced themselves to ruin in the family courts, they seek support from the state. Indeed, but we will have drawn their sting, will we not? This anonymous unelected gentleman, as it happens, owns 17,000 acres from Reigate through to Cambridge. Just 0.3% of his land, however, is registered. An oversight, which keeps his taxes at £1,700. "Ooh, that Tony's a good boy." This particular utterance seems to emanate from that same pigskin briefcase. "And so's his silky little wife." Their sting? I don't understand. They're just fathers. It's not Bin Laden. But you won't find them all under Waterloo Bridge. That is true, yes, some do survive. To become more dangerous, even radicalized, by what they've seen. But how did this happen? For years we passed unnoticed. The secret courts, they are to blame. It is ironic, is it not? After all these happy years, so well concealed, so unimagined, the secret courts have drawn attention to our ways. Now this chap rents a suite of rooms at one of the palaces. He enjoys an annual rent of less than £1,000. He's always liked it there, so close to the shops and the galleries. His tax bill is nil, and his own estates, themselves the size of forests, are paved with the streets of small towns.
Tony's missus is a priceless little puppet.
This late rejoinder from the water jug, apparently, leaves visible ripples and a swirl of undertow. And then you see so often the fathers go and lose their jobs to boot. All in all, it's a huge net loss to the public purse.
Pizzle! Is that you? Pizzle!
Ah, now this particular voice proceeds directly from the face of he who would draw the sting of fathers. It is a kindly, jovial face to all appearances, but the voice that moves its lips is squeaky and half-formed, the voice of a young child.
Pizzle! Are you there?
Something like a tantrum is in the offing, it appears, but mercifully, via a different head, there comes an apposite reply, obedient lips a-shivering of jars.
I am here, revered Master Norbert!
Oh, my. Imagine an underwater explosion, somebody's submarine, if you like, depth-charged and sunk. As the sound wave breaks the surface, it must ricochet off the underside of a dense bank of fog. By the time it hits the harbour wall, it is pent and furious, baffled, imbued with such malevolence, it made you want to scurry off.
Pizzle!
Again that fractious, troubled child, who is somewhat hard of hearing, it appears.
Won't you speak up? I am here, master!
Pizzle replies, though twice as loud. More drowned mariners. In the harbour wall, a crack appears. Might we not give them solid rights? It would have to be the children and the fathers.
Are we sans-culottes, The French Revolution, is it?
The brotherhood of man is not us. A turgid laughter ensues, causing hangings, drapes, and peerless Troy to quake. No, quite. Someone concedes as the laughter stills. Quite right. Ha ha ha! It's about money, after all.
Not to mention deference.
Not to mention our time-honoured rights. Our privileges. The kiddies. This chap, who does not waste words, owns 9% of 2 whole cities. His rent collectors work long days. His tax bill is relatively large, because he is relatively honest, as it happens. He pays his taxes with great show of diligence, all £7,000.
Privileges 1,000 years of custom have bestowed, I'll have you remember.
So, an extra layer of obfuscation is required.
You've got gizzle, have you, Pizzle? I am here, master.
Another face, an aged, tired face, exhausted by a lifetime's pleasures. Another voice, this one more agreeable by the slightest of margins.
But I am overlooked.
This voice, it seems, saws at the nerves, is a captious, carping kind of voice, which stickily anoints a burning rock of grievance and resentments. Again, great effort is made to form the words as though to exemplify phonetic features, and yet again, there is no sound. Why, I wonder, work the lips if there is to be no sound? And how be hard of hearing when there is nothing to be heard? It is irony, of course, the very hallmark of our kind. The fact is, some fathers are difficult. They scale buildings. They stir things up. Then send a clear signal. If they play up, arrest them. If they won't toe the line, lock 'em up, or send a few off-duty coppers to pay a visit.
His name
is Thayer, Pizzle. He is to be your nark. He is to be undone.
Consider his undoing done, revered Master Norbert.
And with the stream of incoming migrants, bringing a new awareness to the country at large, in short, there are murmurings. Whose? Police officers often, in child protection, of course.
So the dog has learned to bark at his master. Whatever next?
You'll be needing an instrument, Pizzle.
Gizzle's got a fiddle, master.
A mandolin, says Gizzle, in plaintive minor mode. Dim-wits! You won't undo that Thayer with a fiddle. There's a new wind blowing. People are beginning to think, to boldly state, indeed I have seen instances, that the establishment is rotten. Worse, that the judiciary is rotten. And once this kind of talk gets out,